You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hey everyone, we are back. Woof. Coronavirus.
That's a good thing.
Oh, thank you for joining us in the car, in the sheets, wherever you are listening. Yes, I've heard that before. Wherever you are listening, just know, thank you. Thank you. No, really, thank you. It really means a lot to us when we hear from you. And I don't know, did you see that email I forwarded over to you this morning?
Which one?
From Keenan.
I did. It was really, it was nice to hear from Keenan.
Keenan, I really appreciate your graceful response and also useful information.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, man. Build
Yes.
bridges, not bombs.
Kudos to Keenan. In all seriousness,
Kudos to relationship development.
man, we're all growing, we're all learning, and that's very gracious of him. So.
Amen. All right. Well, that was just one positive thing. Wanted to say I was grateful for. Yes, remote ID did hit us on the 28th of December. And I want all of you to know from the deep down bottom of my heart, I am not putting out a statement right away. I have been really going down the rabbit hole because the complexity of remote ID is, I would say, exacerbated by a factor of 10. Because, I tweeted out and I said thank you to the FAA for listening to us. The FAA sourced Drone U as one of the reasons as to why they are not putting certain standards on hobby drones for kids. And to be known in the Federal Register for protecting kids, high five, Rob. High five. Anyway, that makes me happy. Although it wasn't the thing I really wanted to be remembered for. But I don't think that they were going to ask us.
Well,
Either way, we're
as
grateful.
you know, it's not about us. Anyways,
Yes.
doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
What matters is that so far it seems to be pretty good.
So far, we're grateful. So far, I'm really grateful for no network RID. That would have really, really effed all of us. Also, I want to just remind everyone that most of the drones that we already have today work with the RID system. Mini 2, yeah, it works. So I think it's important, though. There's going to be a lot of clarification moving forward, Rob, because actually someone that I respect heavily in law enforcement reached out and was like, hey, did you notice the vagueness in the broadcast distance standard or lack thereof? And I was like, yes, I actually did notice that. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I really need to go down the legal rabbit hole. And so I'm not going to just fire out and blast a bunch of stuff, because with RID, if you come out on YouTube and make an absolute statement that this is great for drone pilots or it's horrible for drone pilots, you're oversimplifying something that's extremely complex, because it looks like hobbyists and AMA might really get hurt from this thing, whereas commercial pilots kind of ended up unscathed. And it makes me wonder, is that reflective of the efforts that were made in remote ID? Because remember, the AMAs really, for not being egregious and trying to be humble, it was lackluster and really... not really inappropriate, but just kind of disappointing, Rob, when the AMA put out that letter and they said, cut, copy, and paste this and go post it on the website. Well, I think we're seeing the consequences of trying to half-ass communication with the government. If they're opening up the door and they're saying, hey, we want to hear back from you, and we come out with, logical comments and things like, hey, this is going to hurt this is really unusable, this breaks existing federal law, etc. I got to say thank you to the FAA for listening to some of those things, because otherwise, drone pilots where we are would be hurt significantly more. And this battle is not over, but my point in saying this is that this is a very deep, complex issue, okay? It's not something that we just shotgun response. And I have been reading this thing already. I even made a document to listen to it so I could get through it faster than anyone else. And I realized that that was erroneous because it's just so complex.
Well, it's not about speed.
It's not.
Society has made news about speed, but ultimately it's not.
It's really not. And look at Apple and Android, right? Android, BlackBerry, they were RIM. They were all out there way before Apple with smartphones.
Yeah.
Apple just came out and said, mic dropped. And I'm wondering if they do the same thing with their smart car and Tesla, but that's a conversation for another day. So
yes, it is.
Anyway, but it's a good point that a lot of people in marketing do try to be first, but in today's instant gratification, and when your better, larger clients who have money don't act as instant gratification, it pays to be thorough.
Absolutely. And so I think the point is, stay tuned for more in-depth coverage.
We're going to be doing a lot
of the document and what it all means, who's hurt, who's not, who benefits, who doesn't, all those kinds of things. Definitely there's some surfacey stuff that is pretty well understood, at least on a surfacey level, but much more to come, and I'm looking forward to hearing more. And I know there will be a news show coming up before too long, probably.
I think you and I might be doing that news show together.
Okay.
Unfortunately, High is going through some rough times, as we've been going through some rough times ourselves. And I know everyone's been wondering, how come you guys haven't podcasted in 3 weeks?
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I was looking, it was like December 4th or something.
Well, are we going to tell them?
Yeah, I have nothing to hide.
I'm the one who's in the danger zone over here. I'm really scared.
No,
Just kidding.
Let's see if you take the hint.
Cough,
No.
cough. Rob got the Rona.
No, I did. I had the Rona. The Rona.
I was worried about you for a little while.
Oh, there's no need to worry. Although hearing about was it the congressman, 41 years old, I believe, that just died?
Yeah.
Now, keep in mind that appears to be a very rare response to COVID. I mean, clearly it is, just based on all the information that we have and who's passing and so forth. Every single person, it sucks when they pass, obviously. But this one seems pretty unusual. So anyways, that being part of the context, yeah, it's always scary when somebody gets sick. You never know how that's going to turn out. But the bottom line is, for me, it was about 5, 6, 7 days of, worse than normal head cold, a couple days of bad headaches.
See, when you say that, it makes me think that coronavirus is not so much like the flu, because the news likes to simplify everything, but it's more like this thing called SIRS, which is something inflammation response, chronic inflammation response syndrome, which essentially is the same thing as a cold, except exacerbated and extreme symptoms like crazy headaches.
Yeah, I think that's about what it was like. I never had any intense fever, a little bit of fever in the first few days. By the way, I'm probably, 20 days out now from first symptoms and 2 weeks from my test and so forth. So we're way past it. In fact, what's really interesting about this, well, there's many things that are interesting. Number one, before I talk about that, the weirdest thing, and it's very real, is losing taste. That's no fun, because I love food. We all love food, and to lose taste sucks. Because here's what's weird about it.
Especially in New Mexico.
Yeah, seriously. So you still crave the tastes. You still crave the food, and then you feed that craving, and it's nothing. It's bizarre.
That's wild.
But I had read that a lot of people deal with that loss of taste for weeks. And I'm very grateful that it was a few days for me, and it's already back and has been for a few days. So very interesting experience. But the other point that I was going to make, and I don't even know what this means, but I've got a fairly large family, 7 of us in our home, my wife and I and 5 kids. I am the most careful, by the way, of anybody. Not that our family's not careful. We wear masks. We do everything to respect other people. All that good stuff, blah, blah, blah. Maybe the blah, blah, blah part I shouldn't have said. But
It's okay.
The fact is we do it, right? And so I'm probably the most careful. I'm here generally by myself, or maybe a little bit with you.
Yeah, I didn't come in the
And
office for like 2 weeks.
Don't really go anywhere. If I go to the store, I wear a mask. I keep away from people. My son works. My daughter works, not remotely. And my wife would go into work sometimes. She's a teacher. And I'm the one that got it. None of them got it from me. They've all been tested.
And me either.
And you didn't either.
And I got tested too. So did Sarah.
So I don't really know what all that means. but at least it's given you some sense of where we've been, what's been going on in our world. You know what?
I have a theory.
What a way to end 2020.
Yeah. I got a theory, though. Maybe this is a rabbit trail theory, but I got a theory. Do you give your dog heart guard? It's a random question, but just go with it.
No.
Damn it. Okay, well then theory is killed. The reason I asked, do you give your dog's heart guard is because heart guard has what's called ivermectin in it, and ivermectin is an incredibly powerful drug for ridding the body of anything that tries to attach itself to your proteins and whatnot. And I mean, ivermectin is like what you use for like heartworms, stomach worms, any worms or viral like infection. And it just makes me wonder if ivermectin is a legitimate solution for coronavirus. And then I found a little leaked document on the NIH website that had ivermectin as a solution. And I thought that was interesting.
Read and decide for yourself.
Yeah, yep, we're all human and we're all capable of making our own decisions.
Indeed. But anyways, thank you. If you're back listening, we appreciate it. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for giving us a little unplanned break.
Yeah, apologies about that. In fact, we saw a drone friend yesterday as we were learning about a new mapping technology that's out there. Wink, wink. You can try to hide it, but you can't hide it. That's all I got to say. Surprisingly really good at modeling, by the way, but terrible for mapping. So we'll have more on that, more in depth. I've got so much more testing to do. And I think that we're actually going to take a big pivot in the mapping class for 2021, as a few products have really just destroyed every other thing that's out there. Pix, yep. You are in very big trouble.
They'll be fine. They've got a bunch of smart people. They'll figure it out.
I'm trying to be dramatic about competition. This is going to be great for Pix4D because the user is going to get more from Pix for less money. I promise once they figure out what's going on.
This is how these things work, right?
Yeah. I know. That's why I give Pix4D the message on the show, because then they like kind of have to listen. So anyway, but
we know they're working hard.
We do know they're working hard, and so are a lot of other people. And
yeah, for sure.
In fact, I want to say a shout out to Andrew from...
In Arizona, Andrew?
What's his last name? Is it Dennison? I can't remember his last name. At Drone Deploy.
Oh, that sounds right. Dennison.
I think that's his last name. Shout out to you, buddy. You're a good guy. And you got a bigger heart than I do. So... Anyway, but
I've always liked, I haven't spent a few times on Zoom, and he seems like a good guy.
I think he's a fantastic individual. On that bombshell, let's get to our sponsor for the show. If you're like me and you love to cultivate intelligence, if you're an entrepreneur and you need to problem solve like we do, but you're looking for a group of people to provide answers that, well, maybe other audiences can't give you. When you want to solve a problem about your business, are you going to ask someone working at McDonald's how to do it? Probably not. Will someone who's an entrepreneur, though, be able to provide insightful, objective advice to you? If you could learn more about scaling your business to work less and make more, and really cultivate intelligence, well, then maybe it's time to join a mastermind. Well, Logiclabs has started a mastermind. Well, it will start in the first quarter of 2021. So if you're like me, and you're an entrepreneur and you really love surrounding yourself with other like-minded people to make life, well, more fun, to solve problems faster, to get great objective advice, and to learn more on a consistent level so that you can always be, well, building your business, then you got to join the Logiclabs Modern Mastermind, which starts again Q1 of 2021. And also, disclosure, I will be in the mastermind. Disclosure, so will Rob. So we'll see you there, logiclabs.education, if you want to sign up and learn more about us. About it and us. logiclabs.education.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I am looking into getting a drone to do stuff for social media, recording videos and everything like that, and stuff for Instagram. And I'm just looking into buying one, and I was wondering if you guys would recommend to me getting the Mavic Mini 2 or the Mavic Air 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
What a sweet voice.
What a sweet voice. Appreciate the question.
That's a great question. And for, a lot of people on Instagram are looking into drones right now.
Absolutely. And there's some really great options that are very compact with powerful sensors. I mean, some great stuff.
A part of the reason I really wanted to do this question or answer this question, Rob, is because after, what is it now, a month of having the Mini 2, and we've done 2 giveaways, by the way. We did 1 giveaway on the Mini 2. We did another giveaway on 107. But that being said, after having the Mini 2 for a month, when you think of the Mini 2, I want you to think about the first time you flew the Mavic Pro. And I want you to think about the first time you flew the Mavic Pro and you had all that camera control. You had the portability of a drone that could fit in your backpack and that you could take just about anywhere, right? It was an amazing camera that could shoot raw photos, 4K video, and go just about anywhere, right? The Mini 2 is pretty much a Mavic Pro. This Mini 2 is absolutely incredible. When you think about how far can you fly this drone and still maintain a quality command and control signal utilizing the Occusync 2.0 system, it's absolutely incredible. To compare it against another widely well-known drone like the Skydio 2, well, we can only get our Skydio to go about 1,000 feet before interference. This drone can go a lot further. In fact, according to the NTSB standards for BVLOS waivers and the equipment needed for those waivers, the Skydio 2 actually doesn't even meet the requirements for that. Surprisingly though, the Mini 2 does, with a control and command distance range of 3 kilometers. We all know that that's a bunch of BS though, because if you've ever flown a Mavic Pro, and if you've ever gone on the long distance group on Facebook, you know that some people, you know who you are, Florida, can fly these things like 28,000 feet, which is divide that by 5280, and that's how many miles you got. So it's a lot.
Pretty powerful.
Yeah, so when you think about, a lot of people are thinking about this Mini 2, and I even thought about the Mini 1 as a toy. I didn't really think of it as a commercially viable drone whatsoever. But the Mini 2 is literally a commercial powerhouse in a sub 250 gram drone. And why is that important? If you're traveling to places like Canada, places in Europe where they have micro drone rules, guess what? You can fly this drone without having to meet the commercial standards and get a license in that country, which allows you a level of freedom that is essentially, quintessential. And for me, Rob, the Mini 2 is amazing. But let's break this down. Mini 2.
Yeah, so what about the Mavic Air 2? And of course, the Mini 2 is in the 450 range if you don't get to fly more.
So I'm so glad that you brought this up, because the Mini 2 being about $500, I mean, you're getting $1,000 drone for $500. The Mavic Pro, if you remember, was like, $1,200-1,300 for the Fly More combo at the time, maybe even $1,500. You're getting all of that in this tiny little package. But why not get the Mavic Air 2 if you're on Instagram, you're an influencer, you need a drone that's going to be phenomenal to document whatever you're doing, but you also need something that's easy, that's portable, that's foldable, that's hideable, that's easy to carry onto a plane, right? How much is the Mavic Air 2? That's what I'm wondering.
The Mavic Air 2 is $800 by itself.
But okay, what's the Fly More?
The Fly More is $1,000.
$1,000. Okay. How much is a current Mavic 2 Pro?
A Mavic 2 Pro Fly More?
Yeah.
Let's see. It looks like
1,500.
That's not Fly More, I don't think. So you have to add 400 to that. So it's a couple thousand with Fly More.
Gotcha. So that being said, when we're looking at the Mini 2 for about $450, Fly More combo is $600. The Mavic Air 2, right, was $800. But what about the Fly?
Mavic Air 2 Fly More is $1,000.
That's right.
Mini 2 Fly More $600.
Gotcha.
So $400 difference.
So what I would say is, if you're looking to getting into drones and you want to really learn how to fly, you want to get the most out of this drone, and you want to really learn to fly because you're interested in flying for the years to come. You want to fly now, next year, the year before, the year beyond that, and the year beyond that. If that's the case, I would recommend that you get the Mini 2 drone over the Mavic Air 2. Okay, why? Well, $650 for 3 batteries, a case, a drone, extra props, and a remote. Holy cow. I mean, the Skydio 2 is $1,000. It doesn't even come with a remote, let alone extra batteries. So, I mean, if you think about the value of this drone, you're paying $500 for the drone, $650 for the Fly More combo. The value that you're getting, though, is a Mavic Pro. Think of it like that. Now, if you're thinking about getting the Mavic Air 2, a lot of people love that drone because it shoots 48 megapixel photos. Is it truly 48 megapixels though? Well, that's questionable. Let's look at the size of the sensor. Okay, it's no way it's actually 48 megapixels. Maybe if the megapixels are like 1/10 the size of a normal pixel. Okay. Now, we know how DJI is doing that, and it is a really cool effect. And if you are on Instagram and you want great photos that you really don't have to edit very much, Mavic Air 2 is phenomenal. But if you're going to spend the extra money and you're going to go into the 4-figure range, I would recommend that you ditch the Mavic Air 2 and go right to the Mavic 2 Pro. So again, Mini 2, cheapest, Mavic Air 2 is in the middle, and then Mavic 2 Pro is on top. Luckily, we have our Mavic 2 Pro right here. So this is my Mavic 2 Pro. Now, there are 3 reasons why you should buy a Mavic 2 Pro over a Mavic Air 2. Reason number 1, Hasselblad sensor. Mavic 2 Pro color gamut is the best color gamut I've seen out of any DJI camera. Yes, my X7 is a phenomenal Super 35 sensor, but the color range does not look as good as a Mavic 2 Pro with an anamorphic lens. I'm sorry, but it's true. And it comes out of the camera phenomenal without having to edit it and put it in log and all that crap. And I know shooting in log is amazing and you can edit the colors, but honestly, when consistency and quality of content as far as like what's being talked about is more important than the shot itself, well, I know what decision I'm making for my business.
Well, yeah, and a really interesting point relative to that that important context is that there is more and more scrutiny out there now in the photography world about editing photos. Mm-hmm. It's almost like there's this movement back towards just get what you get with the sensor and let's see what you're really made of. We're seeing a lot more about that everywhere.
I'm seeing influencers being way more successful doing that than doing super pretty photos that they edited for 8 hours.
Yeah, and I tell you what, when I see a photo, I mean, there's super cool stuff, obviously, that's been edited, but when it's over-edited, of course, everybody would say this, but I think when you look at enough photos, you can tell when something seems nice, but you can tell it's been over-edited.
Like your whites look blue.
It's like, yeah, you understand how to edit. That's great.
Yeah.
You could have even had somebody else edit it. But to have a really strong sensor that requires less editing to get just strong images that people are going to enjoy looking at, that's powerful right now more than it has been in a long time.
For sure.
Is the point.
But I would argue that the Mavic Air 2 shoots out that nice 48 megapixel JPEG and people aren't really editing that.
Yeah.
When it comes to the Mavic 2 Pro, the amount of color that you capture, it's just deeper color. Yeah, it's not as many points, it's not as many pixels, but the color is just so rich. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know you know what I'm talking about because we've got photos all over the office.
Yeah.
And 2 of the most beautiful photos, okay, Vic, his Denver photo and my Lake Powell photo, those are both Mavic, and the color gamut is off the charts.
Yeah, well, I know. I mean,
now
the Mavic 2 Pro is, I think, Vic's go-to, right? And it's basically become your go-to.
Yeah, it's
just hard to beat.
And the reason that I won't buy the Mavic Air 2 is because you don't have full camera control, and you don't have attitude mode, you don't have all these other things. And honestly, I want to be in control of the products that I buy. I don't need DJI telling me how to fly my So that's why I love my Mavic 2 Pro, because I can hack it. Mm-hmm. I can get the most out of it. Now, so we talked reason number 1 for getting a Mini 2 over a Mavic Air 2, a Mavic 2 Pro over a Mavic Air 2 was number 1, Hasselblad color gamut. Number 2, you have a much larger sensor. So the amount of light that comes into each pixel, you're getting more information. Thus, you can do more with the image. And again, when we have a large image sensor like the Mavic 2 Pro over the Mavic Air 2, your video is going to have more depth. So the third reason to buy a Mavic 2 Pro over a Mavic Air 2 is for the simple fact that your video is going to have so much more definition. It's going to have so much more depth. And frankly, when it comes to the Mavic 2 Pro, I can add an anamorphic lens. I can add ND filters. You can add ND filters on a Mavic Air 2. I haven't really seen an anamorphic lens for that drone. But when it comes to, if you're just dipping your toes in to drones, or, you're like, hey, I need a drone to just kind of augment the existing photography, videography stuff I'm doing, I would say either go all in with the Mavic 2 Pro or get started with the Mini 2 and understand how the drone flies, understand, proximity, understand all the things that we talk about in the Don't Crash course. Because, and this is the number one reason when comparing the Mini 2 to the Mavic Air 2, why you buy a Mini 2. Why? No obstacle avoidance. It's going to force you to learn how to be a pilot. I have watched influencer after YouTuber after YouTuber dust their freaking drones because they got comfortable. They got comfortable flying. They counted on sensors to tell them when they were about to hit a tree. They counted on things to tell them when things are about to get bad. Okay? This is a fundamental argument about why we asked the question regarding Skydio. Because at the end of the day, you're not in control of the drone. It even says that in the manual. Okay? We found it in the manual. At the end of the day, this drone, by not having obstacle avoidance, is going to force you to be more careful when you're flying, which frankly, you should be doing anyway. Because as my flight instructors have said, and this one's from Ted, by the way, I had 2 flight instructors, just to clarify for everyone who's texted me about this, Ted and Bob. Ted would say you never, ever, ever rely on the sensor. The only thing that you can rely on is yourself.
Good advice.
And he is a pilot who is the ultimate success. No, seriously, Ted is the man. He's the guy who filmed our Part 107, our new updated Part 107 class. And Ted was the voice of United Airlines for, what was it, like 20 years or something like that?
20 plus, yeah.
And guess what Ted's doing now? The coronavirus hits. What does Ted do? I'm getting out of America. He goes to Mexico. He's living on the beach in Mexico. Now that is a pilot's dream, and that's what I want, Rob.
Yeah, I'm happy for him. Super happy for him.
He is the real
He's
man.
having a good life down there.
He sure is. Ted, hope you're doing well, buddy. Anyway, that's going to do it for us today, Rob. I mean, I think if you're going to dip your toes in, if you're an Instagrammer, you're an influencer, pick up a Mini 2. It's cheaper. It's fully capable of doing everything you want, and you're really not risking a lot. If you crash this drone, 1, it's super cheap. 2, if you buy DJI Care refresh, they replace it twice. And 3, it's going to force you to be a better pilot. And here at Drone U, we believe that we want to set the higher standard, because if you're going to actually fly safe, you need to actually know how to do it. So
For sure. All right.
That's what I got.
Well, I think that answers the question.
That was a rant,
Mini 2
Rob.
it is.
Yeah.
Cool little drone.
I love that thing.
Cool little drone.
I can fit 12 of those in one backpack. Anyway.
Gonna do our own New Year's Eve show with Mini 2s.
We might not be far off from that, Rob, in all seriousness. Anyway, guys and girls, thank you so much for your support. And thank you for everyone who's been reaching out and giving us support in this kind of hard time. It means so much to me. In an industry where everyone's out to chop each other out at the knees, it's just really, really, really empowering to see the generosity, the support, and just the love from the community.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
One thing that I've realized is that we've got each other, and that is empowering.
It absolutely is. So, look out for each other.
And if you're not in the Drone U community, inspiring and motivating each other, learning new things and challenging yourself, well, then maybe you should become a member. Because for $47, the more you learn, the more you earn becomes quite understandable. My name is Paul.
I'm Rob.
This is Ask Drone U.